What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to examine X-Men issue 132, brought to you by these fine folks. This is the beginning of, I guess, the second leg of the Dark Phoenix saga. Previously, we had the White Queen attack the X-Men while they were trying to recruit Kitty Pryde and Dazzler separately, and then that was kind of concluded. Emma Frost was defeated. We find out in this issue that Emma Frost actually committed suicide, or at least that's what Scott tells Angel. They are visiting Warren somewhere in, it's either Nevada or Arizona. That's where Warren lives now. And Cyclops says that Emma Frost committed suicide. That was not made especially clear in the previous issue. It kind of made it seem to me that Jean just went overboard in her attack on Emma. And bear in mind, I also have read later X-Men stories where that is kind of the case, where specifically in Grant Morrison's new X-Men run, Emma says that Jean Grey kind of fried her brain. And so here we are told that Emma somehow committed suicide. We're not given any details, but not too long after the Hellfire Club, they kind of change their minds and they bring Emma back to be a semi-recurring adversary of the X-Men, along with the Hellfire Club, who we get to meet in full here. I'm pretty okay with that retcon, that she didn't die in the previous issue, especially since we didn't get to see it, so it is a little shady, especially with how much everybody has kind of been weirded out by Jean lately. Going back to when Jean thought the rest of the X-Men were dead, Alex was kind of thinking about how powerful Jean is and how he's not really sure if he likes the new Jean, and Scott, he doesn't like that Jean kind of altered Carmen Pryde's mind, Kitty's dad, because he was threatening to sue the X-Men. And then here in this issue, she telekinetically changes her costume from her Phoenix costume to her civilian clothes, and Scott is still kind of like, ooh, I don't know about this. And so it does kind of raise some red flags when we are told that Emma committed suicide, but we didn't get to see that happen. And so it does make it seem like, well, did she or did Jean just go too far in her psychic duel? But anyway, we see that Cyclops, he chose to meet Warren here in either Arizona or Nevada, and Professor X is not happy with that. He wanted to go back to the school. Cyclops wanted to go here because he's not sure if the school is safe. And I don't believe we find out in this issue. It might be in the next issue where we find out that the Hellfire Club, they are the ones who sent Warhawk to bug the school several issues ago. That would have been shortly after, I want to say it's before Banshee lost his powers. So that's been a little while back that Warhawk attacked the school, and so that is how the Hellfire Club knows so much about the X-Men. They can watch their Danger Room sessions, so they are very easily able to defeat the X-Men in this issue, but Professor Xavier, he wanted to go back to the school, and Cyclops said, no, we're going to Arizona or Nevada. And this is not the first little tiff that we have seen between Professor X and Scott. Professor X, a few issues ago, was saying, we're going to give Wolverine a demerit for disobedience. And Cyclops said, he's a grown man, you can't just give him a demerit like you could us when we were teenagers. And basically, Professor X said, well, if he won't listen, that's a failing on your part as a leader. And I like Professor X. Sometimes he is kind of a jerk, and sometimes he feels like a very real human being, flaws and all. And in this case, I think that Professor X is being a total jerk, because he left the X-Men. He left Scott in charge, and then he comes in and expects to be able to just take over like nothing happened, and then just push Scott aside. And I'm sorry, no, Professor, you may have started the X-Men, but then you left him in charge. So this is a situation where, of course, I, the reader, know that the Hellfire Club has bugged the mansion, but Scott's intuition is sound. If the Hellfire Club seems to know so much about the X-Men, and they've had a couple of really dangerous run-ins with them recently, it makes sense to not immediately go back home where your home might be bugged. And then they're out in the middle of the desert where there's no way that the Hellfire Club can be spying on them. This is the strategically sound decision to make. And then we get to see Jean and Scott. They have a tender moment out in the middle of nowhere. Jean is able to telekinetically hold back Cyclops' optic blasts, and Scott, even as he's about to get a little bit frisky with Jean here, he's thinking, how is she so powerful? How is she able to do this? And then we cut back to New York City. The X-Men are now sneaking into the Hellfire Club's place, which I don't think it's in this issue. It will be a few issues down the line. We find out this is not that far from the Avengers headquarters. It's like just down the street from where the Avengers base is. But anyway, we got Nightcrawler and Wolverine. They are sneaking in through the sewage, and then Wolverine, he cuts off some of the insulation on some of the wiring in the sewage area because it's raining cats and dogs and the sewage is filling up, and Wolverine cuts some of the insulation so that when the water rises and hits the open wires, it will cause a blackout. And Wolverine says a surprise blackout might do us some good later on. And yes, maybe it will, but it could also prove to be disadvantageous because someone like Colossus or Cyclops could be chasing someone, and then a blackout happens, and then they lose whoever they're chasing. So this is clearly foreshadowing for something that's going to happen either in the next issue or the one after, but it still feels really weird. Like, what if this backfired on you? And it very easily could. But then upstairs we have Colossus and Storm go in together, and once again we get a little moment where Colossus is thinking about how much he misses home, and he should probably go and visit. Chris Claremont is one of those writers who, he doesn't have years and years of stories planned out. He was kind of just going by the seat of his pants, at least at this point, and also he was a collaborator. If John Byrne said, hey, I'd love to do something with Moses Magnum, I don't know if John Byrne was the one who said, let's use Moses Magnum, but if he said, I'd love to do something with this character, then he would work with the artists that he was working with. And I get the feeling, at least from dialogue and from the words we are seeing in these comics, that Claremont is really playing around with the idea that maybe Colossus isn't going to be around for much longer. Way back when they defeated Moses Magnum, Colossus is thinking about how much he misses his family, and it's been gnawing at him for a little while. In that issue, he was thinking about how I have kind of failed the X-Men lately. I need to prove myself, and at the root of all that, it was that he missed his family. There was that one issue that was mostly a quiet, slow down issue. I think it was around the time of the beginning of that arcade storyline where Colossus was having some trouble in the danger room, and I think, again, he was having some mental, not mental problems, but emotional problems, if you will, and it goes back to he misses his family. And we've been getting a lot of that lately, and yet we don't have an issue where Colossus says, Professor, nothing's going on right now. I really want to go back home. I may come back to the X-Men, but I'd like to at least visit my parents for like a week. Because you look at all the other X-Men, none of them really have families outside of the X-Men. Storm doesn't have any relatives that she knows of. Cyclops is an orphan. Jean Grey does have her parents, and I don't know if you can technically say she's an X-Man right now. She left right after Giant Size issue 1, and then she's been hanging around, but I don't know if we can say she's officially a member of the X-Men. But Jean, she does have her parents. Wolverine, we don't know anything about his family life. Nightcrawler, he has friends from the circus, but we don't really know anything about his parents at this point. Colossus is kind of unique in that he has family that he chose to leave, and now he misses them. And with the original X-Men, most of them had parents and families, and most of them would go and they kept contact with them, or to an extent. Like Jean's parents came to visit at one point. I believe Warren's parents came to visit, but then Professor X wiped Beast's parents' minds so that they would forget that Beast was a mutant. He did the same with Iceman. So it was a little weird there, too. But anyway, we get to see once again Colossus misses his family. That took a long time to explain that. And then Jean and Scott go in, and then Jason Wingard, he starts dancing with Jean. He takes her from Scott, and then Scott sees sees that Jason Wingard is actually Mastermind from the Brotherhood of Mutants, and then Wingard is able to turn Jean against Scott. She knocks Scott out. Storm and Colossus go after Scott because they hear him scream, and then Sebastian Shaw shows up, and Sebastian Shaw has the ability to absorb kinetic energy. So Colossus hits Shaw a few times, and then Shaw is able to knock Colossus out. And then Storm tries to get away and contact Wolverine and Nightcrawler, but they are attacked by Donald Pierce, who is a cyborg. He attacks Nightcrawler, and then Harry Leland attacks Wolverine. And Harry Leland has maybe the coolest power out of all these guys. He is able to increase or decrease, I guess, an item's or a person's mass. And so he makes Wolverine so heavy, he falls like through 3 different stories, and then everyone just assumes he's dead. And I should say, I really like Harry Leland's power, but Shaw also has a pretty cool power too. What I like here is that they're not just generic, like I am, Laserface, and I can shoot energy beams out of my hands. Eventually, like by the time you get to the 90s, that was kind of the go-to power whenever you would introduce a new character, and I kind of hate that. I like that here we have a little bit of creativity. These are powers that if, I don't know, a giant monster was about to attack New York City, Harry Leland could use his powers against the giant monster. But it's also a power you would have to be a little bit creative how you would use it in an ongoing setting with different adventures and different adversaries. But I like that this isn't a typical power that you would see, but it's still an interesting power that makes sense. But anyway, very easily, the Hellfire Club, they are able to defeat the X-Men, and then we see that Shaw says Wingard is as natural a leader as Shaw is, and he is going to try and take over the Hellfire Club since he has Jean under his control. And that's news to me because Mastermind was always just a disgusting, sniveling toad, and I say that as one of his teammates was a disgusting, sniveling toad. But I never got the feeling that Mastermind had any leadership capabilities. I could see him saying, hey, I have these incredible powers of illusion. I could use them for so much more than taking orders from Magneto, and then maybe getting too big for his britches, but I don't think if something happened and he was miraculously able to take out Sebastian Shaw somehow, I don't see that he would be able to run the Hellfire Club inner circle for very long. I just don't see him as being the natural leader that Shaw says he is, and maybe this is a situation where Claremont and Byrne want to kind of rehabilitate the character a little bit from how he was portrayed in the 60s and in the Beast solo adventures in the early 70s. So maybe they're wanting to kind of do something different with the character. I don't know. But anyway, the Hellfire Club, they all toast to their victory against the X-Men, and then we see that Wolverine did survive, and he says, okay, time for round 2 or something like that. Anything I missed? We did see Candy Southern. She is dating Warren. She appeared first in the 60s. It was, I don't remember what issue it was, that feels like 100,000 years ago, but Candy Southern, basically it was like right after Warren finally decided, I'm going to stop pursuing Jean Grey, I can see a lost cause, I'm not going to deal with that anymore, and then he meets Candy Southern, and I don't think we have seen her since then. I think she only appeared in like 1 issue, and that was probably pretty soon. Shortly after that, we had the X-Men breaking up and going their separate ways, and then like 2 issues later, they got back together, and then we had a change in creative teams, a couple of changes of creative teams around that point, so we didn't see Candy Southern anymore, but she's here, she is dating Warren, and I have not read any of the Champions series. The Champions had Ghost Rider, Hercules, Black Widow, Warren, or Angel, and I believe Iceman. I've not read any of that series, so I have no idea if Candy Southern showed up there. I think that the Champions series started shortly after Giant Size X-Men, which would have been 75, and then probably ended by now, if I had to guess, but that's about 5 years there where that series could have happened, and then after this, I believe it's after this, Angel, Iceman, and I think Beast, they joined the Defenders. And so from Giant Size issue 1 to X-Factor issue 1, which I think is 85, there's a whole lot of ground there that covers Angel, Iceman, and Beast, who's also in the Avengers during this time, and I don't know what's going on with any of those characters. So Candy Southern may have shown up in those series. She may have been like the Mary Jane to Angel's Spider-Man in those series. I have no idea. But this is, as far as I know, Candy's second appearance. I can't think of anything else that's going on here. We do, like I say, we get some good character moments, a little bit of tension between Cyclops and Professor X. We also get Colossus misses home, like I said earlier, but we get a lot of good action here. And it's nice to see the X-Men are not invincible. Nowadays, where there's like 300 X-Men all living together, just 3 or 4 Hellfire Club members wouldn't really pose much of a threat to the X-Men. So it's nice to see that even though the X-Men are competent, they are able to persevere quite often. Every now and then they can be knocked off their feet and taken by surprise, and I like that. So that's about it for this issue, so let's consider this one Examine.